Staff Sergeant Clifford Chester Sims, U.S. Army. Medal of Honor, Purple Heart. June 18, 1942, February 21, 1968, 25 years old. War makes many kinds of heroes out of men. One of the most treasured and tragic are those that, having everything to go back home to, willingly give up their life to save their fellow soldiers. No questions asked, no second thoughts. This is the story of Clifford Chester Sims. Born Clifford Pittman in Port St. Joe, a city in the Florida Panhandle, Clifford Sims was orphaned early in life and sent to live with his stepfather's relatives. He came to find out, however, that his was one mouth too many for them to handle. So, not wanting to be a burden, he left in the middle of the night and went to live in an abandoned school bus in Panama City, Florida. This would be where he slept and scrounged for whatever food he could find. Years later, as destiny would have it, he would spend his honeymoon with the girl of his dreams in a hotel not far from that same school bus. At the time, at a nearby school, they would deliver the morning's milk and donuts at the rear where the kitchen was, while the school wasn't open yet, Sims's widow, Mary Sims Parker, told the Tennessean in an interview. He would go there and get some milk and donuts. That's how he ate. Sims fully survived off the kindness of strangers during those times. He would go into stores where shopkeepers would turn a blind eye while he took what he needed to survive. And despite all the hardship, Clifford still made it to school as much as possible. A sixth-grade teacher let him come to class no matter what. Whenever you can, come to school. I don't care if you're late or if you're clean. You come on to school and stay as long as you can, whenever you can. At the age of 13, he was adopted by a loving couple, James and Irene Sims. And so it was that Clifford Pittman became Clifford Sims. With his new name, he went to George Washington High School, where he fell madly in love with a young woman named Mary. Shortly after graduating in September of 1961, Sims joined the Army. On Christmas Day of that same year, he and Mary were wed, and they had a quiet honeymoon in a hotel to celebrate before he went off to become a soldier. He completed his basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and airborne school at Fort Benning, Georgia. He was then sent to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. In August of 1967, Sims moved to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and this is where he became a part of the infamous combat unit, the Delta Raiders. The Raiders were known, and still are, for their extraordinary spirit. Much of this had to do with the unorthodox way this group was formed and trained. This was a combat unit organized from many different specialties, even cooks, and after 8 weeks of training they were sent to fight in the deadly Tet Offensive. The intensive training and camaraderie turned the young men into a tight-knit unit that was more than willing to fight and die for one another. The Raiders were composed of 3 battalions, and on February 21, 1968, all 3 were on a search-and-destroy mission outside of the city of Hue in central Vietnam. Sims, now serving as squad leader with Company D, was given a mission: attack a fortified enemy position deep in hostile jungle. Sims was leading his squad through the danger-drenched jungle when heavy fire erupted around them. He positioned his squad within the woodline and proceeded to marshal a devastating attack against the Viet Cong, which had pinned down the 1st Platoon and was doing everything in their power to overrun it. Sims radiated leadership, and that day his adept management was what allowed the 1st Platoon to unfurl themselves from the grip of enemy fire, giving them back the freedom of movement to rejoin the fight. With that achieved, Sims moved his squad to a position where they could provide cover for the company command group, as well as reconnect with the 3rd Platoon, now under heavy enemy pressure. Suddenly he saw something that made his stomach sink. A brick structure stocked full of ammunition was on fire, and this explosive hazard threatened to vaporize everyone in the vicinity. Sims took immediate action to get his squad out of Dodge. He succeeded, saving his men yet again. The squad then cautiously continued through the dense woods. With Sims leading the way, they approached a bunker. Knowing the dangers that could lie within, he took it upon himself to make sure it was safe and empty. As he moved inside, his heart stopped cold. He had heard what he had come to know as the unmistakable noise of a booby trap being triggered right in front of him. Sims screamed a warning to his men and then unhesitatingly launched himself onto the device as it exploded, his body taking the full and deadly impact of the vicious blast. He was killed instantly. He had protected his men at the cost of his own life. First Lieutenant Cleo Hogan was in command of the raiders and wrote the main eyewitness account of Sims's actions on that fateful day. Realizing that he was so close, Hogan wrote, and that the lives of his men were in extreme danger, Sims violently yelled, "Get back! Get back!" and then threw himself on the device, equal to twice the force of a fragmentation grenade. Sims saved the lives of at least 3 of his squad and 2 of the company headquarters by absorbing the shock of the blast himself. Each and every man of the 2nd Squad owes his life to Staff Sergeant Clifford C. Sims. He was 25 years old and newly married. A bright future stretched in front of him, but he still made the ultimate sacrifice. It is because of Americans like him that we enjoy the liberties that we do today, said Rear Admiral Leroy Collins, Jr., U.S. Navy Reserve. Sims was buried in the Barrancas National Cemetery in Pensacola, Florida. Decades later, Mary's daughter found a website of the former raiders. Mary connected with former platoon sergeant George Parker, who knew Sims well and deeply admired him. Mary and Parker hit it off right away and ended up getting married. George Parker had won a Silver Star during the war, and Mary hung the citation on the wall of their home right next to Sims's Medal of Honor citation. "I've got heroes around here," she said.